Brothers Podcast. This is ABCD DVD, a alphabetical journey through our smuggled in collection. My name's Josh.
And I'm Noah.
And we are now talking about Dallas Buyers Club.
Mm-hmm.
Released in 2013. It was directed by Jean-Marc Vallée. Probably mispronounced his name. Sorry. He's known for the movies Crazy, Café de Flore, and Be Wild. It was written by Craig Borton, known for The 33 and Sergio, and also by Melissa Wallach, known for Mirror, Mirror, and Bill. The movie made about $27 million domestically, and I will read this synopsis I found online. In 1985, Dallas electrician and hustler Ron Woodruff works around the system to help AIDS patients get the medication they need after he is diagnosed with a disease. Kind of just scratching the surface of what the movie is.
Yeah, it's like, that's kind of a explanation, but I wouldn't say that's a good synopsis.
Yeah. They're not wrong. They're just, it's not everything that's in the movie.
Yeah. It's your footnotes kind of thing. Like, yeah, that's kind of getting to it.
Yeah. It's starring Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
Yeah, he's all right. He plays Ron. You might know him from Magic Mike, Interstellar, The Gentleman.
Any other things that you know Matthew McConaughey.
Exactly. Also starring Jennifer Garner as Dr. Eve. She's known for 13 Going on 30, Juno, Daredevil, other things.
Mm-hmm.
And also starring Jared Leto as Roy, known for Requiem for a Dream, Suicide Squad. More recently, Morpheus. Please don't watch that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was nominated for 6 Oscars and won 3. It won for Best Actor for McConaughey, Best Supporting Actor for Jared Leto, and more impressively, Best Makeup. And it's impressive because not only is the makeup good to show their their progression through the virus, but they only had $250 in their budget, and they still managed to make it work and work at an Oscar level.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's actually impressive because there is a feel to this where it's like a lot of this movie you feel dirty or it's like things feel scummy, and I think it's like, well, yeah, it's a lot of the set direct, but it's a lot of the makeup as well. Yeah,
the hair and makeup, you do see the transition of what this disease does to the human body, and you can see how sick someone is just by their face or their body. So it is impressive that they did that with $250 when anyone with any knowledge of makeup knows that like one piece of makeup could cost $250. So well done them.
Yes.
So we could just get into it. It starts off with the rodeo. This is kind of our bookend for the movie. And he's Roy, Matthew McConaughey, is having sex with what is called like a rodeo slut or a rodeo groupie.
Sure.
And I had to make the joke of, did you think he lasted the full 8 seconds?
Yeah, I was always like, this is not a movie that you sit down with your mom and dad and be like, we're going to have a movie night. Maybe you do. No judgments on your family. But I was like, oh, no, this really is going to set the tone of this is a very uncomfortable movie in many spots.
Yeah, you're not going to be this is not a feel-good story. It is a true story, or based on a true story at least, about the 1980s AIDS pandemic and the stigma associated with homosexuality and how it affected more than just that community.
Exactly, and one person's journey through having this and what he does and how he feels and how it transforms his life.
Yeah.
And I think, it starts out you are not supposed to like Matthew McConaughey's character. He is a scumbag. He is a hustler. He is not a good person.
Yeah, I mean, we see him being homophobic. We see him being misogynistic. We see him being racist. We do not root for this guy at all. You kind of get that schadenfreude when it's like, this guy got the disease that he, bad-mouthed another person about getting.
Right. But they do put in early on that he does have a moral compass because when he's an electrician and he's sent out to the site and there's someone with their leg stuck in the machine and they're like, oh, should we call an ambulance? Yeah. He's the one who kind of goes like, no, you call an ambulance. Someone's in pain.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that he's an illegal worker. It's like, this guy's going to die if we don't do it. So it does show, that though he might speak, he's terrible in his community, he still kind of knows, no, there's a line you don't cross.
Right. And I think there's also a line he does with his friend who's the cop, which I think does describe him a little bit is, he's just a tough old bandit. This is a persona. I'm an old dog who doesn't know new tricks, sort of thing.
And that cop is played by Steve Zahn. I only mention it because I really like that character actor, but he's very briefly in this movie. And we get after Matthew McConaughey collapses and he finds out that he's been informed that he has HIV. We get the ticking timeline, basically, that he's only going to get 30 days. And it kind of made me think, because Jared Leto's in this film, of Requiem for a Dream, where we get we'll get the 4 seasons. And in that one, we don't get 4 seasons. But in this one, we get actually more than 30 days. Right. But you don't expect that at the beginning.
Another feel-good Jared Leto film, because I often wonder, what would a feel-good Jared Leto film? Because, they're all really good actors. And, Jared Leto and Matthew McConaughey have really done a number on their bodies, because they both are so skinny in this.
It's one of those examples of the scary things of, did you really have to put your body through that? But they wanted to for the role.
And it works. And it definitely works. But, going back to your point, this movie, which I appreciate, does not waste any time getting into, this is the story. Yeah. We've set up real quickly, not a great guy. But boom, we are off to the races. And it's day one. And I appreciate that he already has hesitation. He has already accepted that this is something that could be real, because he's back in his apartment with the 2 girls and his best friend, and they kind of hey, you want to fool around? And he's like, no, I'm worried. So there's already that line being drawn in the sand once again of, no, I do have a moral compass, and I'm worried that I could, potentially have this, even though he is doing everything in his mental power to say, no, I'm fine. No, it can't be me.
Yeah, I don't know at the beginning if that's I don't want to because I might spread the disease. I think it's I don't want to because I am so worried I can't perform, because that idea of I could have relations with and spread it, I don't think really is in his character at that beginning.
It could be. Yeah. It could be.
But it is definitely on his mind. He's doing the research. He's figuring out that it's this is not just for the homosexual community.
Right, and I appreciate that library scene, because it does show that even though he's claiming I'm not a smart person, he is a very smart person. He's in there doing the research, and the movie also doesn't banter around. He has that kind of, oh, shoot moment where he knows what happened, and he's really pissed off because he can no longer lie to himself. No, this is exactly where I got it. I do have this. Oh no.
Yeah, it's that. Well, there's no banning about of coming out of the pandemic, of that misinformation of early diseases. People don't know what caused it, and they latch on. Oh, this only can happen if you do this, and it's no. There are other things that can spread it, and if you don't know it, you can get it.
Right,
and there's that. No, he probably wasn't worried about unprotected sex, and it's beyond pregnancy, and if you're moving around and you're a scumbag, who cares?
Right.
But then there's that scream in the library is nope, I did this to myself.
Yeah,
this
so
he's not a mistake.
Yeah, he's accepting of the research that he has now done, and moving forward with this is his path now. And
you get that electrical, that electrician mentality of, if I do the research, if I figure out the steps, I might be able to fix this. Instead of the, oh, woe is me. It's no, I'm going to do this, the steps, and that brings them to the new experimental drug that's introduced.
Right, and we get the kind of the B story, which is not the strongest part of this movie, with the doctors and Jennifer Garner's character and the AZT drug peddlers.
Yeah, so I would say this is it is part of the B story, but it's the foil to his story of. We get the idea of science and medicine, and the doctors will do right by you, but you do get the pharmaceutical industry and saying, yeah, this drug was deemed not worthy for cancer, but it could be totally worthy for this community that we don't really care about, but we can profit off of.
Right.
And that's going to play indirectly to Matthew McConaughey's character of, he did not like the gay community, but he realizes later on that he can profit off of them. So this is the establishment of the two storylines going hand in hand.
Right.
I want to talk about a little bit of the, throw out French term, mise en scène, the filmmaking of this is completely filmed kind of handheld and long shots. One that allowed it to be on the lower budget that they had to film. It allowed them to speed up because this was filmed in 25 days.
Oh, wow.
But I also noticed that when Matthew McConaughey's character is really sick and not taking care of himself, the camera's out of focus more often.
And you also get that auditory, high-pitched sound.
Yeah, the tinnitus ring. It is really, really annoying, but...
It does give the audience a thing like, hey, he's in a bad spot.
Yeah.
But I think having now introduced Jennifer Garner, there's this drug, is you get the first con. He figures out real quickly by day 7, okay, I have this, I need an in, and he does it with the orderly getting him drugs via the back door.
Yeah, it's the show of the desperate patient versus the bureaucracy of the situation. Because if anyone's had a loved one who goes through any kind of life-threatening disease and hears that there might be a life-saving medical drug, it's like, I want to get in that trial, but there's the problem of the double blind of you might be getting a sugar pill.
And he goes, I don't want a sugar pill. I want the drugs. Give it to me now.
Exactly. And then it turns out that drug, when abused or not, still in its early days, they don't know, is toxic to the human body. So,
well, and I think, he's doing everything to save his life at this point.
Yeah.
And you're also watching his life rather quickly fall apart because by day 7, his friends don't want anything to do with him. By day 9, he's out of a job, and so we're talking in a week, everything that was normal is now gone. And he's getting pushed into this, this desperate situation where it's like, I don't have any resources. I'm going to do what I'm good at, and that's conning.
Yeah. And we get, again, the schadenfreude of the things you did to others is now being done to you. But you're kind of pulling for this guy because it's like he's in a bad state. And I don't know if these were hallucinations or just things that they wanted to draw focus, but you see him look at the wall counter and the 30 is highlighted. And then there's later on, there's a frog that...
And
then there's the rodeo clown.
I bumped on that because, I know this has the hallmarks of an artistic film, and I know it wants to, show these things, but there are times where I'm like, okay, now, is he the frog? Is he the rodeo clown? So it does stop me in the movie and try to be makes me think longer about, well, what did this shot mean versus how does this relate to the movie?
Yeah, if the hallucination was just the 30 on the calendar, it's that's on his brain. But the frog and the rodeo clown really took me out of the movie.
Right, and it's I know there are films that love to put the symbolism right there in the frame, but it stopped me in the film and be okay, you've kind of stopped the flow just so I had to think about, well, is that just a frog or is that a deeper hitting meaning?
Yeah, it wasn't obvious one way or the other, and it does make you realize you're in a movie.
Exactly.
Then we get the meeting of Jared Leto and Matthew McConaughey in the AZT AIDS ward, I guess would be, and Jared Leto's legitimately on the program.
Yes.
And Matthew McConaughey is trying to find another in.
Well, and he is legitimate, but Jared Leto's character is also kind of doing a con as well. But in a Robin Hood type way, I'm splitting half my pills with someone who's giving me a lot of money. But it's a more altruistic kind of con versus...
It's more of a business opportunity, the great American way of this, I can split my medicine with someone who desperately needs it like I do, and I could charge $5,000 a pill, but I'm only charging $250 a pill. And it's very much like the pharmaceuticals of people need money, so need this medicine, so we could always charge more, but we're charging just enough.
Right. And I think I like this scene also because the characters do work well, and I think it shows that Matthew McConaughey's character will back down if someone else has a bigger bark, and I think Jared Leto's character does that by saying oh, you're not that scary, we're gonna play cards, and the homophobia only goes so far where he's well, I want to play cards and try to hustle you, and it's two hustlers having a moment, and I think that's the introduction that his phobias not skin deep, but they can be shut down with the strong personality.
Yeah, they literally are trying to make money off of each other while in bed with each other, so they're literally strange bedfellows.
Yes.
And it's going to show that this partnership is... Matthew McConaughey has the idea and can be the legitimate business face, and Jared Leto has the in with the most vulnerable and most likely to need the drug. So together they can make a lot of money and inadvertently help a lot of people.
Right, and this is where you get the second con, where it's money can be made, and you have Matthew McConaughey, who is now homeless, in less than a month, grabbing money and getting ready to go down to Mexico. And I think, we're now day 29. He's getting to the end of his rope. And I think you have one of the best scenes, and I know they used it at the Oscars, is him having that suicidal thought in the car with his gun. And I know that actors will always struggle with, like, how do you portray desperation and crying? And I think Matthew McConaughey did probably one of the better jobs I've seen, where it's like, it's not just sobbing or upset. It's like, there is like a desperation. There's a laugh. There's a cry. There's a hidden scream in his eyes. I think it's like, no, this is why you got the Oscar, was probably for, many things, but like this scene really is your home run moment.
I agree. And I really, when he goes down to Mexico, I was really intrigued with the Mexican doctor. Mm-hmm. That's a misnomer. It's a doctor who lost his license, I'm guessing, in the United States.
Yes.
And decided to go treat people down in Mexico, where regulations are a little bit more lax, but where he can treat more people. And he has that mentality of saying, no, this drug, AZT, is toxic to you. Yes, we can do something with that is FDA approved for other things that can do just as well with a cocktail, which mm-hmm. is what AIDS patients eventually will get, is a cocktail that helps your immune system, your white cell blood count, and that is the way to go. And mm-hmm. Matthew McConaughey realizes, like, no, I need to change my lifestyle.
Right, and I think that is like the as the term would be, that you're coming to Jesus moment mm-hmm. of like, listen, I'll give you these new drugs to help you, but you need to help yourself, and that means no more drugs, no more alcohol. You need to have a better lifestyle, because that's also kicking your butt. And then we have one more moment with Jennifer Garner, who is getting already started lost in the background of realizing she has a childhood connection to Jared Leto's character. And I thought it was done really well, of showing that they've known each other a long time by talking about, like, oh, is that so-and-so from when we were back in school? And it doesn't make a meal out of it, but it does show that there is a familiar connection without saying, like, hey, remember when you and I were back at school and we used to play together? It's like, no, it just drops it in as a casual conversation piece.
Yeah, it wasn't clunky exposition at mm-hmm. all. And really, I feel Jennifer Garner is just there to get us into the
boardroom.
The boardrooms
mm-hmm.
to show that the pharmaceuticals and the doctors that are partnered with the pharmaceuticals are trying to make a profit.
Yeah.
And despite what the evidence is saying, that this is a toxic drug and that we need to maybe look at other things. It's like, no, we have a desperate community that will do anything. We can make billions of dollars. And Jennifer's going, like, at the cost of their lives.
Right. And she's already starting to have that hesitation. Mm-hmm. And now we do 3 months later, kind of flash forward. Mm-hmm. He's still alive, but now he has full-blown AIDS.
Yep.
And so we start to do the drug running con, and we get the fun scene of him dressed up as a father, mm-hmm. and going through the border, and reconnecting with Jared Leto, be like, hey, I've got a proposition for you. It's like, you're obviously still on this AZT, but I've got a better way to do this.
And it shows, because what's really nice about the makeup and the acting is that when Jared Leto and Matthew McConaughey first meet, Matthew McConaughey looks terrible, mm-hmm. and Jared Leto looks really good. But as the movie goes on and Matthew McConaughey is starting to take care of himself and Jared Leto is still doing drugs, still partying, Jared Leto starts looking terrible and Matthew McConaughey starts looking better. Mm-hmm. And that's a nice visual timeline of what we get.
Right, and then you get, the titular title of they start the Dallas Buyers Club. And I think I enjoy this because I love a legal loophole. Nothing sinister, but saying, like, no, we obviously can't, peddle this on the corner because we're going to get busted. But if we offer a club where you can just come pick up the drugs but not pay for them, then it's like, it's dubious, but it's like, this is how we do it. And you start to get a community starting to evolve around this. Like they're just as desperate, but they feel better about going to a shady motel and getting it from people who are, quote unquote, from their community, versus the doctors who are starting to see patients drop off.
Yeah, the suggested donation or the club membership is a legal loophole that has helped many communities. I mean, it's still being used, oddly, by kids who run lemonade stands, mm-hmm. because they're not allowed to have a food or drug license. but they can just give you lemonade, and if you want to give them $1. I mean, it's sometimes the ridiculousness of the bureaucracy that's supposed to protect people that just gets in the way sometimes.
Right, and it's like they're more adhering to the rules than to the actual humanitarian crisis.
And the drug running continues with him going to other countries like Japan and stuff, and you see that even the most stringent, the most respectful countries will have even their people who are desperate for and corruption to get the drugs for Matthew McConaughey.
Well, and I liked the as I call it, the cowboy in Japan. Is there's a fun little detail there that I think shows the character is doing his research. Is he brings out a business card and bows and hands it to him. Which, if you're thinking about like him at the beginning of the movie, you know, we're like, oh, you're just, you know, this cowboy rustler, you know, in the sticks. Is like, no. You obviously did your research, say like, no, this is a culture that respects the business card and there's a way of doing business. And he's all about the business, so he's going to do it right.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey's transition is great because there's that grocery store scene, and that is to show how far he's come. As you know, we still see him being mean to Jared Leto in a playful way, and still being crass and having sex in the bathroom with another AIDS patient. But when he meets his old buddy, who is still just as homophobic and backwoods minded. Meet Jared Leto is like, what are you doing? It's like, no, you're going to be respectful to my friend.
Right.
Because it's that thing of once you get to know the community that you belittled, actually know someone from there, you're not likely to still be hateful.
And I'm going to go back because you said it was a crass moment of him having sex with another patient. Yeah. It's like, it could be crass, but there is, I'm going to do my deeper hidden meaning, is he has still been very, very careful about what he's doing with his body. Is there's a scene where there's a stripper who wants to do more with him and he waves her off saying like, no, I don't. This is the first time that I think he's been given like the green light. Like I cannot physically hurt this person with this disease. And it's that kind of basic human need of connection for both of them. And it's like, yes, it is kind of like but I think there is like a deeper hidden meaning of like, these two people cannot hurt each other. They can have that moment of connection of normalcy for just a moment. And I think it works. It
works, but it still shows his like, he's at work. There's people who can hear him. I'm not saying he's not being respectful, but just like, he's still he still wants to go.
Yeah, womanize
and get it.
Nope. And then, you know, then we get to kind of where the movie starts to kind of speed up a lot to kind of fill in the loose ends of, you know, the government's putting the squeeze on him. He's gonna, you know, open up shop somewhere else. He's gonna sue. You know, there's a lot of things happening really, really quickly. And I think the story doesn't peter out, but it does get to like this thing where like, you know, to compare it to like an Aaron Brockovich, where this would be the point where it's like, oh, we're going to court. We're going to have that kind of final gotcha moment. But this movie doesn't necessarily have that kind of big crescendo. It's like, you know, Jared Leto dies. He's trying to get all these drugs. He goes to court, and the court's kind of like, well, the government's a jerk, but we can't really rule for you.
I don't think the trial is supposed... I mean, that is the capstone to this film, and it is sad that it doesn't have that... Yeah, this is the moment of change. But for the character, I kind of associated it more with the Schindler's List. Another lighthearted film.
Yes.
You got a guy who has disdain for a community, is joined in a hateful community.
Yes.
And then through circumstance can profit off the community that he's hated. And then by getting to know them, changes his tune. And when Jared Leto's character dies, Matthew McConaughey shifts. Because before he like helped people by getting the medicine and they figured it out, and those good deeds continued to help. Like the first couple that we see him help in the motel eventually give him a house.
That's true.
We want to help more people, so it's that pay it forward kind of thing. But after Jared Leto dies, he goes to that house. Is like, hey, this kid needs medicine, but he doesn't have money. And before he's like, get him to the curb. He's like, give him the medicine. I don't want.
That's true.
I don't want anyone more to die. We get that profit no longer matters.
Right.
We need to help as many people. But the problem is, in this movie compared to, let's say, Schindler's List, that turn is quick. As you said, it's sped up that we don't get to really live in that moment.
Yeah, there's no reveling in the acceptance of a changed person.
Yeah.
And I think what this movie also does, it might be on the nose for me, but as like, this also is a good movie that shows like the stages of grief. You know, the denial, the anger, the bargaining, the depression, the acceptance. You kind of see him go through all of them really quickly because he is under a clock. And then at the very end to kind of get that last thing that he had lasted
2,557 days or 7 years.
7 years. And I think that is your kind of rah-rah moment of, no, he beat the odds and he, did a lot of good in the time that he was given. I'm just sad that the movie rushed us to the very end.
Yeah, we get, again, like I said, the bookend of the bull rider, and instead of in the beginning where he was encouraging someone else to ride the bull and last, he's now riding it. And it's that thing of, you're only given the 8 seconds of life that you're given. Are you going to hold on and ride as long as you can? And I think that's the metaphor at the end.
Nope, I think that sums it up. I mean, I would recommend this to people who are looking for one of McConaughey's better performances. Not that McConaughey does bad performances, especially as he's getting older, he is getting better. But if you want to see, did he deserve the Oscar? Yes, he totally deserved the Oscar for this. It does not feel good. It's going to make you uncomfortable places, but it is one of those time and place biopics that I think does better than most.
Yeah, it is the term Oscar bait. It has all those things, but it is deserved Oscar bait. Everyone does a phenomenal job. All the side characters, you either love or hate them respectively. And it is one that I think is at least worth watching once and to understand where we are from where we were in the 1980s and to be aware of future diseases, to be open-minded and to, be aware of other communities.
No, and and in full honesty to the audience, when we saw this coming up on our list, we kind of both went, "Oh, could we do something else?" And not because it's a bad movie, but it's in the vein of like Schindler's List, where you're like, it's a great movie that I just want to watch once, and to rewatch it is, you get into it, it's good, but the process to get to that movie, you're like, okay, I'm gonna feel crappy a little bit after it just because this is a heavy movie, and I'm going to take that pack and walk with it a few hours afterwards.
Yeah, it stays with you.
Which is not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. Movies are to entertain. It's not always to make you feel good. And especially when it's based on a true story, it's good to know these moments.
Exactly.
So, looking at this, it seems like it's a slightly shorter one, but, I don't like to be late because, I'm an early man. And I know. Next week, we are watching Early Man, a stop-motion animation about soccer.
Yes, so we're going to go from Oscar-winning Matthew McConaughey to Clay playing soccer. Exactly. Yeah, that's our list.
Caveman playing soccer.
It gives you a glimpse into our lives of movies.
It is an eclectic collection. So if you can watch that beforehand, we'd love to have you. And thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
No, I was like, I think I made it halfway, and then I got distracted. So I had to listen to the stinger, too.
That's a good sign that you can't even listen to our podcast.